Next item is the Pledge of Allegiance. What we're going to be doing is, I'd like to, before we get there, I'd like to review the proposed agenda and accept any changes to that. I have one change I'd like to propose, and that is to move one of the last items relating to the presentation by council on the
Item
flag.
6A.
What's that?
Item 6A.
6A. Okay, great. Thank you. Item 6A in the agenda relating to possible limitations on the enforcement of flags in the city of Solvang under the sign ordinance. And we have city council here to go over that, but it's at the end of the agenda. We thought it'd be useful and maybe it'd save us some money, who knows, if we move council to the beginning of this meeting and rather than have him wait until the very end on that item. May I have a motion on that?
I'll move to, make a motion to move item 6A to the front of the order.
Okay. Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, so that'll be a change in the agenda today. So with that, now I will ask council to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you. Hand over your heart. Join with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Well, one video, or she has it on for the.
Are the microphones working this evening at all?
Are the mics down? Can you enable the mics? No.
Okay, turn them off then. That's good.
So yes, they're working or no?
No, they're not. So you
Okay.
just need to speak up.
Okay, thank you. Let's review take the minutes of prior meetings for approval, and we do have two meetings, both June 16th meeting as well as July 21st meeting.
I'll be abstaining from June 16th meeting as I was not present.
Okay.
I don't have any changes.
One question I have on the June 16th meeting is, it's on page 6. It says Renee spoke about eclectic colors and designs. Who's Renee?
Well, the minute clerk did not know who
Okay.
that was by the last name.
Yeah,
And-
okay. I don't recall who spoke, but Renee's not otherwise identifiable in the minutes.
And we couldn't get that.
Okay, that's fine. No comments on either. Is there a motion to
Actually,
approve both?
I
Oh.
I do have.
Oh, you have a comment. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. So let's, you want to take action on the
Yeah,
minutes of June 16th?
Motion to accept the minutes of June 16th as presented.
Second. Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 abstain.
Okay, and on June 21st meeting, or July 21st meeting, I'm sorry, with any comments?
Yes, page 11, third paragraph, discussion followed regarding the need to review stream lighting. It was stream lighting policies or guidelines.
Okay,
As there is ambiguity regarding the subject.
okay.
I also had a correction, page 12, Jim, in about what, line 6, Jim, his last name is Fiolek. Spell that for you. It's Fiolek. If you want to nitpick, down towards the bottom, member Jacobson Bates in that bigger paragraph, almost to the end, more subdued tone given the volume of wall space. It says give.
Okay, yeah. Thank you.
And I did have a question, page 14. Planning consultant tomorrow reported the plan will be incorporated. I'm not quite sure what plan is being referenced there. Is that the landscaping plan? I wasn't clear what that was. I believe it's just the overall look because it was in regards to the mission style, I believe, at the proposed
Okay.
project at the old lumber yard. But that's omitted from there.
Okay, I'll work with
Okay.
Thank you.
Anna Marie for clarification.
Okay, great. Thank you. Anything else?
Page 15.
Yeah, sure.
I commented on the neon open lights. That's in item 7, second line. It says fluorescent lights was the neon open. sign
Okay, good.
lights.
Thanks. Good correction.
And that concludes my comments.
Okay. I'll accept a motion to approve the minutes of the July meeting with the changes noted.
I move to approve with the changes now.
Second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. We also have planning of and building committee division projects to review before we get into the agenda. Any questions regarding that?
Not at this time.
Yeah, I've had a question on page 16 at the bottom. It refers to this is a proposal that is sort of being resurrected regarding the expansion or extension of the hotel project on Atterdag Road. And I guess with respect to that, I recall that the bar reviewed that proposal in 2019 when I was on the Board of Architectural Review. And I see that the Planning Commission has reviewed and approved the plan on this project for both 2019 and 2022. And I wondered if the Design Review Committee was going to have a second look as well.
Yes, this Lori Tamura, plan consultant. In regards to this particular project, there are conditions of approval. This is one of our legacy projects where there are conditions for the project to have additional Board of Architecture review after the Planning Commission review. And so you will be seeing this before it's developed. As you can see here, the Planning Commission approved it in 2019. Development plans have a life of 3 years.
Okay.
And they have to apply for a time extension or their development plan is dead. And you'd have to start
Okay,
over.
I appreciate that clarification. I have the same question on page 17 regarding the project on Alicel Road, 261 Alicel Road, which is converting an existing structure into a hotel, and also at 670 Alamo Pintado Road, which is a 32-unit condo with 5 buildings. Again, those have both been approved by the Planning Commission 2 or 3 years ago. And it doesn't show any action by Board of Architecture Review or DRC on those two.
The first one that you mentioned on 261 Alicel Road, I will need to come back with you in regards to what the conditions are for that one. I haven't reviewed those yet.
Okay.
We have contacted the applicant to submit their time extension application.
Okay.
But it would expire in December if they don't.
Okay.
And we can report back next month on what conditions of approval were there for follow-up review. In the 32-unit condominium project, there are no conditions on that one for additional DRC review.
Okay.
So you won't be seeing
That's
that
fine.
one.
I'm not looking for work. I just want to make sure that we have an understanding about what our role
Sure.
may or may not be on those projects. Okay, I don't think we actually take any action to accept this report or anything like that, but we appreciate having it and having an opportunity to review it. And I also appreciate the efforts of all staff to prepare the minutes thoroughly. And I know people involved in that to reflect the discussions and official actions that we've taken here.
I actually have a curious, on the very last page, Art Spot on Wheels and also Rob Rosenberry, pain management, both were approved. And I think well, I don't know, maybe Rosenberry has it, but Art Spot's got their signs done. So when do those get removed from the list? They just,
Once they have completed the installation of the signs, we'll pull them off the
Got it.
list. So we'll double check to make sure that those have been completed, and then they'll drop off.
Okay.
As you know, there's other projects that this will be the last time you'll see them because
Yeah.
they've been completed.
yeah, I noticed like it says, that, these will be removed from the list. I just wasn't
Right.
sure why those particular ones weren't.
Good, thank you for that comment. The agenda for the meeting has been published and posted, but are there any public comments people would like to make now regarding items that are not on the agenda before us? Okay, I don't see anyone here, and I don't think there's any
Nobody
Zoom room active today. So we'll move on to the next item and take up with council's help, guidance about the issue relating to flags and the sign ordinance.
Well, thank you, Honorable Chair, members of the committee. I'm going to make this fairly brief because the legal parameters are set forth in the staff report. And I understand you have a very booked agenda this evening that you'll need to get to. What I wanted to do basically is put this on your radar as we will probably be making recommendations for changes to the sign code insofar as it covers flags and some other types of signs going forward. There have been some changes in the Supreme Court case law after a case called the Town of Gilbert, where sign regulations imposed by local municipalities and other governmental entities have been subjected to a much higher level of scrutiny by the Supreme Court and other courts. So in Solvang, we obviously have a very unique sign code, very unique sign regulations. They're very detailed. And in a couple situations, staff has noticed that there is some perhaps lack of clarity or some question about the enforcement stance. And so as the city's prosecutor, I will take a look at each case individually to determine, one, whether or not it's a violation, and two, whether or not I can constitutionally prosecute a violation. So it may be set forth in a city's code as a violation, but as city prosecutor, I have the independent prosecutorial discretion to determine whether or not I should prosecute it. So there have been a couple that have come through as flags that have had complaints registered against them. I've taken a look at them and declined to prosecute because I think there are some issues with the way that the current city sign regulations are with respect to flags. And so ultimately what we're hoping
Can you
to
describe what those are?
what the
I mean,
flags are.
briefly, yeah, we know what those complications are.
So essentially, without getting into a long kind of law school recitation of it, the First Amendment allows expressive activity, and it is a fundamental right. It is subjected to the highest level of scrutiny in the courts, which is called strict scrutiny. And the city's regulations have to be narrowly tailored to basically impose as little a burden on those constitutional rights as possible. And so what the courts will look to when they're looking at sign regulations or billboards, for example, is another case, is whether or not the regulation in question looks at the message. In other words, what the person is saying or what the sign is saying. So if we are differentiating between flags based on what is on the flag, that is what's called a content-based restriction. And the case law prefers content-neutral restrictions. In other words, we are not looking at what's on the flag. We're looking at the shape of the flag, perhaps, the size of the flag, the number of flags, what are called reasonable time, place, and manner restrictions. And so the current city municipal code does differentiate among the types of flags. There are some that are exempt from sign code regulation. and do not require a permit, and there are some that do. So, for example, the Danish flag is exempt from sign code regulation, does not need a permit. If you had a flag, for example, that looks like the screen behind you, which is a multicolored rainbow flag, that would require a permit. It is not the flag of a nation. It is not the flag of a religion. It's just colors on a flag. And so that differentiation is based on the content of what's on the flag. And so in the situations where I've received complaints about a couple flags, they do not qualify as exempt signs or flags. And the complaint was that they're in violation of the sign code. On the surface, yes, they would require a permit, but ultimately I can't prosecute someone if I believe it's unconstitutional to do so. So what we're hoping to do is conform the sign code regulations with respect to flags and all the other signs for that matter to conform to the changes in the Supreme Court's jurisprudence that's happened over the last 5 to 10 years. Solvang sign code has not been comprehensively updated in many years. As long as I have been here with the city, and I've been here since probably the late 1990s, there hasn't been significant changes in that. There have been tweaks along the way, but ultimately, at some point, we're going to ask for the DRC's input into what you think Solvang should look like in terms of signs, flags, and with those kind of guardrails on the discussion. So that's basically what I had hoped to bring to you and open it up to you all if you have any questions about what that process would look like or what the constitutional limitations might be. And that's really all I have other than what's set forth in the staff report. I don't know if the city manager had anything additional to add on to that, but that's
A great explanation. I appreciate that. Are there any questions or comments from members of the?
Comments, yes. I don't know if I need-
Yes.
Or well, maybe it is a question. So it sounds like today what we're looking for from us is whether we would make a recommendation to city council to consider changes, but I'm assuming city council doesn't need our recommendation to, I think you're just sort of looking for our opinion kind of in general as a guidance for the city council. Is that kind of?
Yes, and it's going to be a process. I'm not looking for specific direction this
Sure.
evening. I don't need you to tell me how many flags you think are appropriate for a business, but I wanted to put it on all of your radars because this is it is a current issue because we have received a couple of complaints about flags specifically and perhaps some other signs as well. And so when we got those complaints, I asked one of the other lawyers in my firm to put together a memo on this current state of the constitutional jurisprudence with respect to flags and signs. And you see most of that in the staff report there. So when we come back, it's going to be a question of, okay, do you want to limit the number of flags? Do you want to limit the size? Do you want to limit where they can be attached or how they can be attached to the buildings? Things that do not talk about what is actually on the flag itself. So those will be kind of the restrictions that we would be looking for guidance to recommend to the city council. And obviously Solvang is worldwide known for the way it appears. And it's Northern European and Danish heritage. It looks a particular way, and that is one of the primary attractions to the community. Having hundreds of flags is probably going to detract from that. So having one flag is probably not going to detract. Where between 1 and 100 is going to be something that you may want to give some consideration. Also, the size of the flags. There are a number of places in the country that have had controversies over the size of a flag, and they are flags of nearly an acre. They're so big, and those are the kind of things that there are some safety issues involved in a flag that large. You may want to impose certain engineering requirements on a flagpole for a flag that size. So that's not what is on the flag. That's just the safety posed by the flag. Same kind of thing for traffic distractions. If you think that flags should not be on the sidewalk near the street, because they would constitute either a visual impairment for vehicles or a distraction for vehicles, that's another kind of reasonable time, place, and manner restriction that you can impose.
We look forward to working with you and staff on a process to develop recommendations that would be made in advance to the city council.
When do you anticipate that we'll be addressing those potential changes? Because I think there's numerous issues that are going to be coming up before too long.
Yeah, I don't have a specific timeline on it. It's going to, I think, depend on your calendar, how much your workload is at the meetings. And I can work with Lori and staff to put together something that will come to you in a meeting where you have the ability to roll up your sleeves, so to speak, and really focus on what the suggestions are. We'll be taking a look in my shop at other regulations throughout the state with respect to flags, signs, and so on, and come up with more of a state of the art in light of the changes to the law. So we'll provide you recommendations. You can take a look at them. You can say yes, no, increase, decrease, what have you. You are the subject matter experts on what Solvang should look like. And your recommendations will be taken with great weight by the city council. So I want to give you that opportunity, give you the time to really dive into it as well.
In the meantime, I understand that regulating flags is very specific. Flags that have the name of a business that say open, do they fall within the parameters of legal?
Short answer is yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Because now we're looking at what the message is on there.
Right.
And so if you say, okay, a business may have 3 flags no greater than 6 square feet each, and the business owners choose to use one of them for open and one of them for the Danish flag and one of them for the California flag, that's up to them. But if you were to say, we will only allow the national flags and not an open flag, then you're getting into the content of the flag, and that's where it becomes problematic.
Okay. So we can, when policy is put together, can address numbers, can address placement, certainly for safety. And that's some of the things that I see in Solvang right now, where there's flags that are waving as you walk by, they are in your walking zone and such. So that type of thing can be addressed, but not, it can say the name of a business or your political beliefs or whatever without being able to define any of that, because that's content.
Right.
Thank you.
And so there, I mean, that's, I would say, a simplified version of the case law. To dive into where the cases are, just even in the most recent Supreme Court term, they struck down some regulations in the city of Austin and dealt with some in the city of Boston regarding flags and display of the information on the flags. So it's a constantly changing area of the law, but I can say with some certainty that it is not going to get more favorable for public agencies in enforcing their restrictions. I think the trend at the Supreme Court is to just open it up as far as possible under the First Amendment to allow that expressive speech. And I think that is going to be a continuing trend as we go forward.
All right, thank you.
And then just for context, are we talking just about the TRC here or citywide?
It'll be citywide because there may be some other places that it is appropriate to have larger flags. For example, if you want to have someone in the industrial zone who has the room to put up a very large flagpole, you may want to limit that because it's very windy down there, and you may not want an acre-sized flag. So there may be some bases where you want to impose restrictions on the size even outside the TRC. I think fundamentally, though, the TRC is where you're going to be focusing your efforts because those will have the greatest impact and the greatest visibility.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, no.
Thanks so much, Councilor. We appreciate it.
If there's anything from the public
Yeah,
on this item.
Are there any questions or comments from anyone in the public about the item? Appreciate that. No. Well, watch this channel. There'll be information in the future. Thank you so much, Councilor.
All right, thank you.
Appreciate that. Okay. Go to the first item on the regular agenda, which is sign approval. The first one is for the Pride and Joy store at 446 Alisell Road.
Just a moment. Sophia's making a
Sophia's gonna-
presentation,
okay,
so
great.
we're switching out staff.
Okay, I understand.
might, my microphone.
I just heard it. Sorry.
Thanks for help.
Okay. Mics are hot.
Hello. Oh, nice.
Yeah, that's blowing in my
Oh, we're-
microphone. Just so that worked, and it did.
Oh, it does. Okay, good.
So yes, the next item is to review and approve the proposed wall sign and proposed hanging sign, including a modification for the maximum size of the wall sign and the maximum letter height on the wall sign for Pride and Joy at 446 Alisal Road, Suite 10A. Excuse me. The applicant is proposing one wall sign and one hanging sign for their store that is located in the tourist-related commercial zone or the TRC zone. As mentioned, the wall sign requires a modification due to the maximum size of the sign and to the maximum letter height. So both are outside what is allowed in the municipal code. And then the hanging sign meets the requirements of the code. And staff is recommending approval. And, and the applicant is also in the audience if there are any questions.
Jeff, have anything to say at this time?
No.
Okay,
Perfect.
okay, great. Great. Oh, my gosh. Any questions or comments by?
Assuming the size, additional sizes, because rather than using that other wall space to the, I guess would be the right of the front door if you're facing the front door, where you would probably have a larger looking sign, instead you're sort of opting for using the space over the door, and which is why you're trying to make a bigger impact with the bigger sign. Is that?
My comment would be on the one that is outside of the standards. Or that I don't think we should be allowing that, and especially because that sign doesn't really fit if this is to scale. It doesn't fit that space. And it just doesn't fit. So I mean, I would just wonder why this particular sign here has to be bigger and have larger letters than any others. Oh, I'm sorry. That's my comment. I don't think it needs to be that big, and I don't think it looks attractive, especially given the really colorful nature of it, which is, although it's not required to have old school lettering, but you know, it's now not that, and it's stupid. So that's my comments.
Yeah, I agree in general. I mean, it is one of the things that I think drives my opinion about it is the location. It's at the critical crossroads of Alisal and Copenhagen. It's at the T of that intersection. And so I think that that's sort of the heart and soul, in a way, of the TRC. So, and I think that, you know, you can look around and see there's exceptions and so forth, but I think that we have an obligation, if we can, to ensure that those things are consistent with the so-called special character of the village. I think that's the phrase, something like that, that's used. And these are, we should, you know, so I think they are larger. They're almost 30% larger for the size of the sign and for the size of the letters for the front sign. The hanging sign is fine. I don't have any problem with that at all. That's been designed and put together with the within those limits. I'm disappointed in some ways that, you know, there wasn't some effort to reflect the special character of the village rather than be something so different from it. When, you know, you're in the heart of the village, and the reason the village is there and is so successful and draws so many people is because it looks like Danish, Northern European traditional. And this does not. I guess that's my comment.
Do you think the 30% off candles or 75% off candles sign represents that? the heart.
next door?
Yeah.
No, I
Come
don't.
up to the mic.
Like I say, there, you,
You need
like
to
you
come
can
up to the
always
mic.
point, there's gonna be there's a lot of signs that are up and around that don't comply. And I think what that means is that, we got there, one at a time. I think we have to go back to where we want to be one at a time.
I think too that, our job here is applying the guidelines that are in place, and these include signs that are compatible to and harmonious with the building. And it being that very highly visible historic building, it's an important location, and given the scale, it's, if we make an approval for that scale of a sign, it kind of sets a precedence, and it's a bit of a slippery slope, and all the people that come in behind you are also going to be requesting that same kind of thing. And we've learned that we need to be adhering to the guidelines to which we're tasked with applying.
I would say that, if you don't mind, sorry. I like the design, actually. I mean, the thing is, we obviously are torn between our old world style and also a branding of a business, which is not necessarily something that we have any control of. And in the past, like for me, I think our biggest challenge is making approvals on things or disapprovals on things when there's all these, other things that have been, not following the code, so to speak. But I would say for this board, and we've tried to really stick to staying in those guidelines, we have allowed other businesses, because of their branding, which is important to their business, that maybe didn't fall within the old world, style. So for me, I think just having it be the sign, be reduced in size to the size that fits within the limitation of the code, and not necessarily any changes to the sign itself. The sign is a 3D sign, I think, right? Yeah.
Yes.
So, I'm happy with that because I see a lot of.
Within the limit of the size.
Right. So in other words, just that the sign be reduced, a little bit to fit it within that 7 square foot.
So the suggestion that we would make in anticipation of the comments that the DRC might make is that currently the sign is 6 feet by 18 inches, which gets you to the 9 feet.
Right.
If they did 6 feet by 14 inches, they would be at 7 square feet.
Right.
And that also reflects the lettering would be a bit smaller,
Smaller.
to say proportional within a smaller sign.
And I
But that
realize-
would give you at least some context to what
Right.
would be done to reduce it and
Yeah.
meet the requirement.
I realize that, sorry.
Yeah,
The perspective changes obviously so it's harder, and I'm sure that's why the designer decided to go with a slightly bigger size because it fit better. But I'm sure it can also be reduced down to perspective, like you said. And I think just those couple of inches, and I think it might actually look better, honestly, with it so sort of packed in there between the window and the half timbers. A little space around that might actually make the sign stand out better, I think, personally, but.
I agree as well, and we have tried to be supportive of the branding of businesses because the great majority of them really at this point don't seem to be fitting into the old world style, which is a recommendation, not a requirement. But the requirement is that the maximum height for the letters be 8 inches and the maximum size be 7 square feet. And I would support a sign that fits within those parameters. And so.
Yeah, and I agree with that in addition to all the other comments, including Patrick's about, especially in this area, that here is where we really kind of need to make that stand, especially in things that are requirements, so.
And this will be in everybody's picture of the window. That's a spot that gets caught a lot. We'll have, it's highly visible as you come down Copenhagen. And I think your color palette lends itself well to that visual, and the extra inches are not going to be messed in as far as attracting customers. And again, it is even up to us to decide what looks good as far as scale but rather to stay within the limits that were required to apply.
I'm just curious, is that phone booth, is that something that is a city thing, or is that something that the landlord, or the owner of the building,
It's the owners.
owner, yeah? It's curious, because I think, if I'm not mistaken, the 75% of Campbell store is closing or for sale, or, no? I thought I saw it was for sale or for rent, anyway, maybe not, never mind.
And we certainly aren't recommending that as a guide for
No,
signage.
I was
within
just-
the community.
I was just thinking, it's curious because of the way they have those windows built out with those kind of,
Pop outs.
yeah, there's not a lot of room for a sign there along with that, phone booth. It's just it's a curious setup, the whole building, but I can see how you'd want to have your sign above to kind of go, to correspond with the sign above on the store, on the business next door versus having it on the side. But anyway, that's just.
Yeah, well, and I think this building, it is, it's the first Danish style building constructed in the downtown, and it's gone through a lot of renovations. And sadly, those renovations haven't been well applied in recent years, so it used to be more harmonious, the stores on the left, the stores on the right, and it's become a bit of a hodgepodge. And to the best of our ability here, we're tasked with trying to kind of bring that back.
The location, the
Yeah,
heart of it is a factor. I mean, that's something we should take into account. We have a well-known brand at the next item. But it's down at Alamo Potato and Mission. So it's a different kind of location and so forth. But this is in the heart of the place. So, but if you have someone have a motion or.
I would make a motion to accept the signs as they are, except for with the change of just bringing the sign, the
Wall sign.
wall sign within the 7 square foot requirement.
and
And the letters.
And the lettering would come down with it as well.
conforming to code or conforming to guidelines, whatever you want to call it.
Yes, that.
Okay, and I'll that's seconded, okay? You understood the motion, second?
Should I clarify the motion?
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
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 Applicants in the room, do you want to set your mic and just let us know if that will be something that you can work with? I mean, I think that's relevant.
Yes,
Good.
Thank you.
thanks.
Thanks, Joy.
Thank you.
You've got a great location.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I've toyed with this. I mean, I should have said this probably when she was here, but I've said this other times in other settings. I would like to have the applicant explain why, if their proposal is at variance with the requirements of having it be traditional and old world type letter characters, if they wanted to apply for some, I want them to explicitly explain why that can't be done. That's not asking too much when, we're talking about future something. I mean, I don't want to make it sound too dramatic, but I mean, it's keeping this character the way it is what we're trying to be. And I think the burden should shift to the applicant to explain why an exception should be granted.
And you have made that request before,
Maybe
and we,
did, yeah,
yes,
I
and we
understand.
apologize for not doing that. In this case, we were putting the package together quickly in order to facilitate the sign plan, and we didn't emphasize that as part of the package.
I mean, even if it's like, here's my effort to try to make it look old world, and boy, it sure fails,
Mhm.
okay? Anyway,
I think also just, I mean, we're about to have almost every, I think all the signs, not all the signs, but most of them, we're having the same conversation about larger signs. And I think the general consensus would be, we'd rather not have to see those because we would not have to make a decision. I mean, we don't want to have to make decisions that are outside of what the code requires. And so, I mean, we obviously have to do a case by case basis, but I'm hoping that the applicants will understand when they apply or be told, fairly clearly that it's not likely to pass if it's outside of a certain range of size or whatever. I mean, maybe that's overreaching to say that, I don't know, but
Well,
just based on what our decisions have been.
Yeah,
I think it's a great point.
Yeah, I concur, and I think what we're asking for is your help, staff, in alerting the applicants to that. Because I think there's maybe an expectation that they will, because there's a staff recommendation for approval. And that kind of, it makes our position a little bit more difficult. So if you could help with that, that would be.
Or more than, also just it helps eliminate the back and forth and the time that it's taking for the applicant to, because then she'll have to go back and have her designer change the sign, so that just ends up being more, although I guess that would have happened. I mean, anyway, I think we're all on the same page.
Quite well taken.
Okay, good, thanks for your comments. I appreciate that. Okay, the next item is another walls, another set of signs relating to the US Bank at 2010 Mission Drive.
Yes, so the very important point I want to make with these are all existing signs. They're just changing them because US Bank took over Union Bank, and so they're rebranding everything.
Yeah.
So they're existing approved signs. They got rebranded in February and were updated for Union Bank, and now it's going through another rebrand since Union Bank was acquired. So again, these are all existing signs. We are asking for modifications just due to the fact that they were larger signs and fonts that were approved originally, or in the example, or in the instance of the accessory signs, the code only allows a certain number, but I believe it's either 1 or 3, and they're requesting 6 signs. So I'll go through the signs. And so the first sign that they're proposing is a wall sign. It's on the frontage on Mission or 246. This sign does exceed the requirement for size by 1.9 square feet. And the font is also over the allowable size at the US in the shield being 12 3/8 inches and the bank being 18 inches. Other than that, it adheres to all the other requirements of that section of the code. In regards to the ground sign, that is also primarily within the code, except for the letters, the allowable letter height. So they are requesting 15 inches when the code says 10 inches. And this is the ground sign that there's a landscape island for the egress and ingress off of Mission. And there's a little landscape island with this ground sign, and that's where that's located. And then throughout the property, and this is indicated on, I think it's page 3 or page 32 of your sign package, you'll see a lot of lettering indicating the different numbers, or the different signs, excuse me. The accessory signs are, I believe, item C, and they are scattered throughout the property. They're requesting 6 signs when code limits the accessory signs to 1. And then they're also requesting proposed changes to the parking lot and directional signs. So as we wrote in the staff report, parking lot directional signs are traditionally exempt from meeting your review. They could just receive a land use clearance. However, we are bringing it to you because they're requesting signs that are larger than what is allowed within the requirements of the code. And then there's another set of parking lot directional signs, the drive up banking and the do not enter signs that are also being brought to you because they're larger than what is allowed. So they're asking for 4 square feet and the signs are 2 square feet. Because they are existing signs, we're asking that they be approved. And yeah.
Okay. Good. You go ahead.
So as we're going through this general plan update, I think a lot of the conversation is how the code will change. Whether or not, there's been some talk about whether there would be a requirement for businesses to come, businesses that are existing with approvals to bring their stuff up to current code. I feel like someone might have mentioned that. I don't know if that's a thing that is going to be done or could be done, but I would like to think that we work pretty hard with this board to streamline things, to follow the code. This seems like an opportunity to me to try to get those signs a little closer to the size. And I realize it's not in the TRC, so I think it's just like you said, it's a slightly different conversation than the one we just heard. I went to Santa Barbara this week, and I intentionally drove by US Bank down there on State Street, and the sign is pretty small because I think that's what the code is. I'm assuming. I didn't call anybody at the city or anything like that, but I don't necessarily think that front sign needs to be that big. Personally, I think it's, you can see it well from the street. There's a lot of marking. There's a lot of stuff directing people to that bank. A lot more than, say, the bank across the street. And I'm also looking at the building across the street, which is the one that has Montecito and some insurance companies and things like that, and all of their signs. Well, at least I know the ones we approved were falling within the size limitations. We didn't see all of those, but to me, visually, they look like they match. I didn't, go measure them with a tape measure or anything like that. For me, I don't necessarily think that it needs to be so big when there's a pretty good size entry, ground entry sign when you come in. And I think a brightly lit LED sign is going to show pretty on a white wall like that. I think just a few, square foot, what is it? 2 square feet, basically smaller. I don't think would make that big of a difference. I don't really care that much, or I shouldn't say I don't care, but it's not as important to me, the letter height, because again, from a design perspective, I know it's hard to fit lettering within a certain thing if, because the perspective changes and sometimes you end up with more border. And I realize that like US Bank is a corporate business and they probably have very specific guidelines as to what they can stick with as far as how much white space and all that stuff is around their lettering. But anyway, that's sort of my opinion on the wall sign and also just the lettering on the other sign. The ground sign, I think as long as the sign stays within its square footage, I'm not so worried about the lettering personally. And the 6 signs in the parking lot seem excessive to me. One of them is completely blocked by a tree right now, so I'm not even sure why that one would be necessary. I think one sign at the entrance to say this is for customer parking. Maybe if we were in the TRC and we had obvious trouble with people parking there for events or just for Saturday or Sunday parking in the TRC, but like this bank, I don't think anybody's going to be parking in that parking lot in order to go over to Valley Fresh or to Montecito Bank. So to me, it seems excessive. I'm not saying, maybe only one side. We have 2 distinct parking lots, so I think at least one on each parking lot makes sense. I just had a question about the square footage on the directional signs. So the do not enter sign is currently 4 square feet. Is that right?
Yes, that's what I was told by the
Okay.
sign maker.
I was thinking that they were asking for that one to be bigger, and I thought that one doesn't really need to be bigger, but I could see how the do not enter sign is useful bigger because you really don't want to have
Right.
people pulling in there and for better or worse, people just aren't always that observant, I think. So I'm not as concerned with that or the drive-through signs. I think, they had a drive-through sign that was very specific on what you needed to have. And I think that probably does help customers and help speed
Traffic,
things
yeah.
along in traffic, exactly, because you don't want to start backing things up onto the road and if people don't have their paperwork ready or whatnot. So yeah, that's just my thinking on it.
Okay.
You guys think, but
Joy, I back you on what you were saying. I understand the wish to use the existing sign out front. And I think that can be accommodated, but downscaling the logo and looking at the mock-up, it is significantly larger. I would like to see that scaled back and allow them to use the existing sign that is there, but to have more white space around it. Because if this is to scale what we're looking at in our little packet they provided, that seems real oversized, as does the sign above the front door. Needing lots of no parking signs, echo joy totally. If it was down here, yes, because you would be worried about neighbors, businesses, customers coming and going, but that's not an issue in that location. They could probably have none and it would be okay, but I also understand that they don't want to have somebody parking there overnight or something like that, and that covers it. So that is also, I echo your sentiments, and I believe the number of the parking signs is excessive as well.
And I completely agree with both of you. But just to put emphasis on, even though this property isn't in the TRC, it is the gateway from anyone coming in the 154 into town and anyone leaving town going that way. So I think that front sign should, that ground sign should definitely adhere to especially the letter height to our code. So the number of signs, customer parking signs, totally agree. 2 would be fine. And I think those were my only 2 things.
And as far as the scale of the sign as well, as Joy mentioned, it's outsized by comparison with what's in the neighborhood and exists. So
Anyone from the applicant here? We can hail the applicant. Okay. Yeah, I have just questions, I guess, because we're talking about, changes in the code going forward and general plan and so forth. Based on your experience and knowledge, are the 50 square foot grounds, the maximum for our standard is 50 square feet. Is that right? And
Yes.
Yeah, on the ground sign.
and
yeah, it's
Their
the
A
height.
5 by 10 sign.
Yeah, it's
your
the-
proposal was 19 square feet.
it is the letter height that is
The letter height,
outsized.
the letter height is I know so that's 15 and the 15 inches, and the ground sign standards is 10 inches. Is the 10 inches too low? Is the standard too low?
This is exactly one of those situations where the standards are out of proportion with what you would see. A 50-foot square sign with 10-inch letters
Right.
would be a lot of letters to fill
Yeah,
up that slot.
that's
Or it'd
my
be just
point.
a
I mean,
little
they're not-
thing in
they
the
seem
middle.
like it's a low letter size and
Right.
a large sign.
Yeah, if you imagine a 5 foot by 10 foot sign, so 5 foot tall, which is
Right.
just a little bit shorter than me,
Uh-huh.
10 feet wide, and then having 10-inch letters.
Yeah.
Does seem a little out of proportion.
I mean, this is probably something to take a note. So when we do redo some of the standards, or tweak them or tune them.
Correct.
That's one thing. The other one is 1 square foot too small for the auxiliary. That seems pretty small also.
So I guess my question is,
Yeah.
is there a way that we, what are our options this evening as far as action to take here?
We can, you're gonna, those are listed at the end of the staff
Yeah.
report, that we can make recommendations and modifications to the size and letter height for the proposed sign.
And with your recommendation, we will go back to the applicant for direction, providing your direction. If they have a problem, they can reapply back to the DRC. And so I would encourage you to go ahead and make the suggestions that you've made, and that'll be part of the record, and we'll relay that to US Bank
Hey,
and the
Brian,
sign maker.
sorry, could you clarify, you were saying that you were concerned about that being the entrance, and you're talking specifically about the ground sign, right? Like,
Yeah, this,
and the 15-inch lettering.
this one, wait,
The ground
Because
sign.
that's right on the street.
Right, right.
The wall sign is, set back significantly. So
Sure,
this is the one, I mean, you may as well be driving into Tustin or somewhere.
right,
Like
right.
this Looks and feels so. That's the one I really have a problem with.
Yeah.
Sure.
Not the other ones so much.
Okay,
Well, and the wall sign is actually proposed to be 13.9 square feet and the maximum size is 12. And the maximum letter height allowable is 10 inches, where they're proposing between 12 and 3/8 inches, and then the logo is 18 inches. So, it's quite significantly larger.
I mean, to me, it's because it's set back from the street. That sign is the first thing anyone driving by is gonna say.
Yeah. See, I also feel like the sign on the bank, and just clarify for me, I apologize, remind me about the illumination or not on the bank sign, on the building sign.
Building sign is lit up like a forest or.
That's what I thought. So my concern about that is, at night and the scale of it, I feel like it's oversized.
The Union Bank sign looks really big. I mean, and that's what they're kind of trying to stay with, right?
yeah, I think they can.
And I understand them wanting to do that. I mean, I want to do that too, but I just
They
think
had a
it's
lot more letters
unnecessary.
to put on.
Yeah, right, that's right. That's true. They have more letters to put on. And again, that's where you're talking about perspective, right? If you had shrunk that down more, and that's probably why it got approved, but with US Bank being a more compact thing, all of the logo altogether, I think it can just be a little small, because letters don't have to be quite so tall.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Especially after I saw the one in Santa Barbara, and I'm not trying to hammer on that, but I could very clearly see that was US Bank. It was an exact same kind of building, mission style building with letters that, I mean, I wasn't right up next to it, but it was significantly smaller than we're even talking about here within our thing. And to me, I was like, people have no problem finding that bank, and they don't have the parking lot signs and the ground sign and they just have this one kind of small lit up wall sign. So,
So what's our motion then, I guess?
Is there a motion to, we have 3 decisions, right? There's
Four, actually.
Yeah, 4, that's right, counting the directional signs.
should we hit them one by one? And just-
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yes,
let's take
please.
the directional signs first. I think that's easier than that.
Can you stop at the top?
I'm sorry.
In the staff report, can you start at the first one?
Okay.
So at the wall sign?
Okay,
and
we'll
we can
stop.
just
Start
work
with the-
through it.
Okay, that's fine. We'll start with the wall sign on the top of page 27.
11.1113.9.
Right, 1113.9, where the city standard is 12 square feet, this one is 13.9 square feet.
I would, before we make a motion, I would just mention, I don't know what their dimensions would be if they went down to 12 square feet, what that would make the letter height be. But I wouldn't be opposed to the letter height slightly exceeding if it needs to, in order to keep the perspective right. Does that make sense?
That's a good approach. I like
Because, I
that.
mean, it's probably not
I
going
like
to be significant. It might even be under the 10 inches by the time they,
A corresponding adjustment of the letter height and the
Right.
size of the sign,
right?
okay?
I'd like to see that they go down to the, that they at least have the 12 square feet and the 10 inches, because the logo would still be significantly larger than the 10 inches. So they stay within those required sizes.
Is that understood? Okay.
Okay, can I make a motion?
Yeah, please.
For the 1113.9, a ground sign, that the maximum size adhere to code we call those codes, guidelines, what are they called?
Standards.
Regulations, standards, whatever. 12 square feet, 10 inches maximum height for the lettering.
I mean,
Wait.
With,
Yeah.
with the logo to scale with the lettering.
Can you just clarify, you said 1113.9, they're both the same. You said ground sign, but you're talking about the wall sign.
Wall signs at the top, there. That's right.
Correct.
The 1113.9 is the code for the whole.
Correct,
file.
yes.
Okay.
Did you get that?
Yes.
So do we want to make motions separately on, I mean, or,
I think we should.
okay, so then I would second that on item
Okay.
1113-9. Sorry, wait a minute. That's actually not an item number, is it? That's just the code.
Yes.
Okay, so on the wall, on the wall sign,
Oh, that's the code, right?
right?
Yeah, sorry, yeah, I misread that.
No, that's okay. I thought so too.
Okay.
Okay. So then on the ground sign, we make a motion to bring the lettering,
Well,
Well, you didn't vote.
we're gonna
Sorry.
vote
I'm
on
sorry.
on that first one regarding the wall sign. So there'll be a
confused
reduction to
us.
the maximum standard assigned of 12 square feet and an adjustment on the letter height to be proportionate reduction.
And not exceed the maximum letter height of 10 inches.
Right, okay.
did we second?
Yes, I think,
Brian seconded.
yeah.
Yeah.
I know someone.
I did.
Yeah.
Sorry.
You did.
Okay. Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Hi.
Aye.
By the end of this, we'll
Now we'll
have.
get to the
You
ground
will.
sign, because we have,
I'm confident.
I'm sorry?
I'm confident you'll
Okay, we'll get to it.
So for the ground sign, I make a motion that they be allowed to use the existing sign, but staying within the standard height, which is a maximum letter height of 10 inches.
Okay.
And that the logo be proportionate to that.
I'll second that.
We moved and seconded, regarding the adjustments on the ground sign proposal, all in favor, say aye.
I,
Aye. Okay, we move on to accessory sign standard finally. I guess we have one more after that. Right now, the proposed accessory signs are 1.5 square feet and the maximum is 1 square foot. My reaction is 1 square foot is not very much for some of these accessory signs, but yeah.
I agree. I think it does sound like, I mean, part of this conversation moving forward might be to allow a little bit more room. I'm gonna, at first when I thought, for instance, the do not enter sign, I thought it was going up to 4 from 2, and I thought that's excessive, but 2 seemed okay. And I think you're right, like a 1 foot, if they're gonna just have 2 signs, having a 1.5 foot sign, I think is fine.
Well, I think, well, one of the proposals is really, it will have 6 sides.
Right.
Is that right?
I'm just talking about the size.
Oh, okay, okay.
Sorry,
No,
'cause we didn't
okay.
discuss that earlier.
Yeah.
Really. Did we?
Yes.
Good.
On that?
Yeah, do you want to
You
make a
do,
motion on that?
Sure.
Yeah.
So I would motion to, on the accessory signs, I would motion to allow 2 signs, 1 for each parking lot, and for them to be able to exceed the size of 1 square foot and go up to 1.5 square feet.
And I'll second that.
So they would only have 2 accessory signs, not 6.
Correct.
Yes, sir.
What signs are being eliminated?
4 of them.
What-
Customer
It's-
parking only.
They're all-
Customer parking only. So there's 6 customer parking
Okay.
only.
These are the,
Yeah, okay,
which just seemed excessive.
okay. You have a motion?
Yeah, we did.
Okay,
Second.
okay, all in favor, say aye.
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 Chair, I believe we didn't open it to public comment.
Oh, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
just before we close that.
Yes, we should, we will. Thank you. Let's complete this and accept comments, if that's fine. Is that all right?
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's do that. Are there any comments regarding the proposal from the people here? No? Okay. Thank you though for that. We should have done that, but I took that out of order. Finally, we have the parking lot directional signs.
The motion to accept the proposal as presented.
Second.
Seconded. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Think more on that item. Thank you. Thank you. Next item on our agenda is item 3C, which is another signage proposal relating to work. 400 also.
I'm gonna recuse myself from voting.
Of course, I understand. Okay. We have, yeah,
Yes.
yep, go ahead.
Yes, so this item is to change the existing proposed pole sign to a new one for the Cork Hotel at 400 Alisal Road. They're proposing to change the new one or the old pole sign with a new one. And the hotel is located in the tourist related commercial area or the TRC zone. The sign is supported by a brick platform almost a foot in height and is erected to support from the ground. The sign is 14 feet, 10 1/4 inches in height from the bottom of the brick platform to the top of the sign. And in accordance with the code, it's not part of any building or structure other than the structure erected solely for the purpose of supporting the sign. So the modification that we're requesting in this case is for the size of the sign, given that there is a 1-inch platform at the bottom of it. And the applicant is here today.
Right.
Oh, and staff is recommending.
It's a 1 foot.
I believe,
platform.
yeah, 1 foot.
Yeah, it's a 1 inch.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
Thank you.
okay, I thought that's what.
Okay. Yeah. So, will you please repeat your specific recommendation regarding the,
So our recommendation is to review and approve the proposed pole sign, including the modification for the maximum height for the hotel court,
okay,
or for the Cork Hotel.
please, we have a representative of the applicant.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me today. Really, this is a rebranding project. The logo has been redone, and it's time to revise the signage outside. This obviously reflects where we've been and certainly where we're going. It's a beautiful sign, and there's many experts that have assisted us with this process. In addition to the sign, obviously, we're adding a lot of beautiful, colorful flowers that we will continue throughout the project.
Okay,
Certainly an improvement of the current sign.
I looked at the signs there and I would definitely echo that. Just wanted a little clarity from staff, if I'm reading this correctly. So the current sign that's there is 14 feet. And that extends from the ground to the top of the sign, or that extends from the top of the kind of concrete, or excuse me, brick base that exists there.
We have the size for the proposed sign. I don't know the size for the existing sign.
Okay. Can you speak to that? Like, is it 14 feet from that brick that's existing there to
Great.
the round bottom?
From the sidewalk,
From the sidewalk?
from the ground.
Okay, and this is also proposed to be
From
from
the
the ground up, it's the 1410. Okay. Well, I think that it's really good to see the changes. It'll, having gone and looked physically at the location and how it's going to be modified using what presently exists will be a big improvement. The lights, the flowers all look good. The concern that comes into play comes into the height. And I would like to ask if applicant could meet the 14 feet that is currently there, which is 1 foot above what is required within the district or the guidelines, and utilize that same existing footprint for height.
Just to be clear, the maximum height you're asking for is
14 so it matches the existing in height, which is 1 foot above what actually is
yeah, the standard is 13 feet
Yeah.
in the code.
in the TRC. Yeah. So you're asking to replace a 14-foot sign, which tends to be allowable to work with that extra height because you're replacing existing.
so you're asking the maximum height to be 14 feet.
Yes.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's not good.
It's a lovely sign. It's just huge. And I mean, it's beautiful.
Yeah, and I like the brick. I think, I understand that it's, they're not gonna make it look like, Copenhagen. But the brick is a good use, and it's one that helps, recall to some extent the Northern European thing. And, but you have a logo that is identifiable and clear, and it's a really nice design proposal.
Is this a dimensional sign? It probably says here in the small print. In other words, is it raised lettering on the logo and the name there?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, so
Well, I'd be willing to make a motion to accept the proposal within the 14-foot limit for the height, overall height.
and I would say,
All right, it's been moved and seconded to accept the proposal with an amendment or with modification that go to 14 feet high, consistent with the current sign. What's that? Oh, public comment. Any other public comment regarding that? You have any? I'm good. Okay. Okay, none other. So we're going to proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 301 recused.
Thank you. Yeah. We're going to take 10-minute break.
that was the 2 minutes.
5-minute break. 5-minute break. 5-minute break. And then we'll. Yeah. I thought it
Maybe I should. Maybe I should. Oh, yeah, I don't mean say that we're not giving it thoughtful consideration. I just mean it's to streamline it. Spray paint, flame on the ends and then.
No, but we haven't gotten into all that work yet either, so.
Okay, just,
Yeah,
I know
it's on my,
that
yeah. Not there yet. See, it's been-
Just didn't want it to, because we're really making our way through the projects.
And,
Hopefully we'll have a little bit of a lull here as we get to. Fingers crossed. They don't have many signs.
Other miscellaneous items here.
Yeah, right.
I mean, that's just like, huh?
Yeah, it's like hiding there. I mean, even if
Oh, wait, no, that's the flush. Where is it? Oh, it is. Oh, it's down there.
it's there.
It's there. Yeah, I was thinking something with miscellaneous, but that is right.
I wasn't on my, when I go through these, first of all, I'm sure we go through, you're driving around, happens in the car, things falling on the floor, they're sliding out, so they get all mixed up, and I was like, okay, I got it all out of order, because I couldn't find that order, so I sort of trying to put everything together. and everything else.
Tomorrow.
Rather than
I'll just leave it in Anna Marie's office.
I just go through all these,
My
and I
computer,
think that one.
she'll pick it up.
It's got some
We'll leave it in your office.
Yeah.
Oh, you don't want to be on camera?
All I see is
Yeah.
All of a sudden I'm like,
And
This one should go. There's no modification.
I know, thank God.
very specifically held on to with the intention of making sure it was nearby. I could not find it today.
Here's something I did. I just not.
Oh.
Yeah,
60 inches, isn't it required to be lower for fire?
No, you didn't know.
For building?
Oh, that's cool.
And then when that shows
Yeah, that.
what we're talking about.
What is that?
I think that's-
Bedroom windows
That is.
have
And
to
then,
have,
But they have a different window on the other
they
side.
have another window.
But, it's hard to figure out what's going on. And this is just,
I can't even imagine it from.
And right here. Yeah, it's addition notice right here. Yeah.
It was wonderful. I use it for because I have so many.
Sorry, Lori. Brown hat. Brown hat.
What do you mean, them talking or?
They're both talking.
Oh, hold on. Oh, I see. Uh-oh. What? Should that have happened before? That should have happened.
That's fine with me, yeah, that's fine.
That should have happened at the beginning.
Thanks for bringing that up. I should have thought of that.
He was telling me about his dad was on the bar for Santa Barbara for like 25 years. And I was like, you should join the DRC. And I was like, you're here enough.
Yeah. I was not going to bring it up. But I would bring it up, but I think.
Why don't you want to be in it? See, there's Zeno will be there.
We have one more signed application to consider. Under the agenda that's already been approved, the next item would be a consideration of the Solvang Senior Center, which is an extensive, it's a fairly extensive proposal.
We've got one more side.
Yeah, I know that. But also we have an item for the review and approve, hopefully, the revised conditions of approval on Lot 3 of Bella Vista Development. And absent objection, I would like that item to precede the senior center proposal, so people here involved in that can leave, and the senior center proposal, which is going to be extending a long time. So if there's no objection, I'd like to amend that agenda.
Does that need a motion? So then I would move to.
Okay, that'd be good, thank you.
I would move to move the Bella Vista decision before the senior center item. So that would be after the
Campo del Sol.
the Campo del Sol.
Okay. And is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
So we'll adjust the agenda for that, make that accommodation. And now bring before the committee the proposal relating to the signage at Campo del Sol Cantina at 1557 Mission Drive, formerly Succulent Cafe. Yeah, formerly Succulent Cafe. All right. Staff, would you please review your recommendation?
Yes, so staff asked that you review and approve the 2 proposed wall signs, 1 proposed projecting sign, 1 proposed hanging sign, and 3 proposed awnings for Campo del Sol Cantina at 1557 Mission Drive, as you said, Chair, the former, or where Succulent is currently located. One of the proposed wall signs is on the exterior wall fronting Fourth Place. It meets the requirements of the code. In fact, all the signs meet the requirement of the code for signs within the TRC area. The second wall sign is going to be placed on the wall in the courtyard between a window and a door with a glass panel. So it'll be tucked on the front of the building. The projecting sign is double-sided, and there is an existing detailed iron bracket, which the applicant will utilize, and it will be located on the exterior wall fronting Mission Drive. And then there will be a hanging sign that says Cantina hung from the pergola or that archway over the entrance to the courtyard area or the outdoor seating. And then they're proposing to change the existing awning signs to ones that reflect the branding of the business. And staff is recommending that you approve them, given that they are within the requirements of the code.
Okay, thank you. You have a.
Oh, and applicants are here, sorry.
Applicants are here.
Sorry,
and
Brian.
Ready to go. So,
I'll help.
do you have anything to add to the recommendation of staff?
Sounded good.
Well, I appreciate that you took care to be sure the signs and the lettering all fell within the standards of the city. So that's not an issue at all. Are there any comments?
Brian, I just want to ask, our color palette that we have, is this accurate? Do you have, I mean, is,
I didn't get color shift. If we want printed colors, I can do that.
does this,
That I picked in little swatches from each element of the sign. I mean, there's so many. We could print it and get it in Pantone if we have to. But I don't have the paint swatches with it.
okay, that was my, just want to make sure I'm looking at an accurate representation of colors. You know how that is with printers and such.
Right, especially with the bright colors.
Mhm, exactly. And then what color is the background on it? Like, is that kind of a creamish color to match the existing building?
Yeah,
over there?
my printer didn't hit that. It's gonna be like a light ivory.
Okay, so because the building's kind of got a yellowish, creamish tone to it. I
Yeah.
see it's repainted.
And we won't be as dark as the building. We'll be lighter than that. We're not trying to match that. But yeah, my printer doesn't show it at all, but it'll be more like an ivory color.
I'm looking across Esther's version versus mine. And I think, Brian, the color around the border of the signs, good looking signs, by the way, is kind of like a teal color.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think on yours, it looks a little more green. Is that, or am I just seeing that wrong from the way?
It looks teal, and I think this is the color that the awnings are proposed to be a teal, if I understand as well.
Yeah, because I think they're gonna do like a glass solid with painting on it to be similar to the signs, and it'll be like that greenish teal color.
Okay.
It looks like the print's supposed to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mine is.
I have just a question about the position of signs. I noticed another decorative sign hanger on the west side of the property, I guess. So like if you're facing the pergola, or the, whatever you call that.
The archway.
To the left, there's like a place for a sign, a hanging sign that's within it, but you're not putting a sign there.
There's a spot there, and with succulent in the previous, we never used it. I don't know if succulent ever did put one there, but it's, how do you define it? We'd love to, but it's like a ground sign, and they might have enough frontage. I don't know if there's other ground signs close enough. But it's like a full sign, but ground sign, it's kind of.
Yeah, it's pretty, I mean, it's pretty tall when I'm talking
Yeah.
about, right? Like there's some lights attached to it or something.
And if we could hang a 2x3 sign there, we sure would.
I was just wondering, did Succulent have a sign hanging from the pergola? I don't remember where the cantina,
From the archway where it can.
from the archway?
Yes.
Yeah, they did.
Oh,
And it's very similar, and
Yeah.
it's just over 7 foot high, probably 7 foot inches high to the bottom.
Okay.
So yeah, there's one there now. And if we could do something to add to that, to the left of that entryway, we sure would.
Yeah.
I just don't know how we would define it, if it's a ground sign or if it's a projecting sign on a pole. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. I just noticed that it wasn't mentioned here and I just wasn't, I'm just asking. Curious.
Good question.
And there is a lot of signage included.
There's a lot of signage, I mean, yeah.
And I don't want to overdo it. I know there's that bracket there that's a great
Yeah.
spot.
Yeah.
It's probably also a
Yeah.
little bit too close to the, there's not that spacing between the Bruco sign and such too. It needs to have a separate,
Yeah, I don't know.
yeah, that's right.
But if I could get your input for that spot, if we consider it down the road, that'd be nice.
I know we've talked about the design standards and so forth already tonight, and clearly this is not Danish traditional, but it looks great. I think it captures the very well the Mexican brand that you have, and so I think that's fine.
Right, and we wanted to have Cantina, make sure people know.
Yeah,
what we
exactly, I
are.
understand.
It's like we did Carry Low High, that's neon green, I'd say 90% are overall, and then the other 10 are newer, so it's a good mix.
Okay. Any other comments from members of the?
I actually think that even though it is obviously, Mexican style, I think I think about some of the Danish, maybe pottery or, I'm thinking of like
The
rice
birds
dishes or
especially.
something. Yeah, like I actually think, and especially when you see it on the building and in that one image with the projecting kind of wrought iron thing, it looks pretty solving to me, and
Yeah,
I think
I
it's
understand.
a nice design.
That's right. I like it. So.
The-
And the gray of color.
Yeah.
Business owner here, can I just mention the Campo del Sol translates to field of the sun.
Ah, nice.
Do you want to
Sunny Hills.
repeat that?
Yeah.
Just for the audience. who's-
Solvang.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Sorry, Campo del Sol translates to fields of the sun. That's right.
They're not our Sunny Hills.
Yeah.
I think it's very bright and vibrant, reflecting the business. I'm a little concerned about how bright and vibrant it is on the old style of the building. I wish there was a way of incorporating maybe a little bit more subdued color. I guess maybe the one that's throwing me is the pink. And wishing that maybe the black could be like the brown half timbers or something, just more complement the existing building because it's so different from it. But I'm not sure my colleagues
I disagree. I mean, I think
would agree with that or not, so.
Well, my thinking is we often have the conversation about that we want more vibrant colors
And
on
this is-
paint, on walls and things like that. So in some ways, I'm inclined to say, well, this sort of fits that. Granted, it's a sign, it's not a wall, which would be, different. So in some ways, I think it kind of brightens that space up a bit. Well, obviously it does, but
And I think the awnings will really enhance the
I agree.
look as
Yeah.
well.
I agree.
And the background will be ivory, so that's gonna tone down those bright colors
Yeah.
a little bit too.
I think
Campo
that was essential, yeah.
Campo del Sol's not black, it's a deep blue.
Okay, oh, is it deep
So
blue?
nothing's like bright
Oh, yeah, that's
whites or deep blacks, it's all gonna be,
Okay,
especially with the ivory in the background. The printer here doesn't do the justice for that background color.
yeah, and I
So-
didn't realize it was deep blue on it.
I see what you mean.
So what I see as black here is actually like a deep navy blue or something, is that right?
Oh, yeah, 'cause I thought it was black as
It
well.
looks black.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it is blue on yours.
Yeah, like, that's why I was asking about our color palette.
My print's close, it's not like our big printer or paint, but it's close, except for the background colors not showing up.
okay.
Now I see what you're saying.
Yeah,
Esther, when you were talking about like the brightness or something, it's almost like like the contrast was a little much, but
right,
to me, mine looks a little blue here, so I wasn't necessarily thinking it was black, and I think that's why
yeah, no,
it makes sense now.
understanding that I'm looking at a dark shade of blue as opposed to black makes a big difference here.
Sure.
Yeah, it's a lot different, and then he has, it's kind of white, but it's actually gonna be a cream
Right,
ivory.
which we'll tone it down.
That's
Put it on your light.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
We have special lights that show it in daylight and kind of night light.
It's nice, it's a nice design.
That motion.
Yeah, so are we, yeah, should we make a motion to approve the proposal as presented?
Yes, no second.
Okay. Any other comments from
Sorry.
the audience? let's proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. 4-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And for the senior center, I'm here for questions on that, as far as the signage for it.
Okay,
So if there's something with that up front, I can.
let, yeah,
And staff, I have a question regarding this project for Campo del Sol. There's nothing about umbrellas, are they utilizing, or is that coming back separate, or?
I called Anthony and asked about that, and they said they're keeping the existing umbrellas.
Okay, so they've got kind of the kind of terracotta
Mhm.
kind of color, which is present in the sign, right? Probably should have asked that earlier.
Yeah, that's really good. You mentioned that one.
I don't know if it's present inside, but we tried to pick the awning color to complement the terracotta umbrellas. I think they're complementary. Terracotta.
Are you the business?
Yeah. I'm Anthony.
For the record. Yeah, thank you.
We do want to make one observation that was not part of the application, but we noticed over the course of this week that there are new chairs out on the patio that have a combination of colors that are picked up by the sign. So it's not just brown or white chairs. There's some green, reds, terracotta, couple of different colors. So normally we don't have an application for patio furniture, but we wanted to just acknowledge that they are using colored chairs
okay.
on the deck.
I saw those and I actually thought they looked really nice. I mean, I think they express the theme of the business, from what I can tell anyway. Whether they'll conflict with the signs, hard to say, but I think with the awnings and the umbrellas and all that, there's probably enough separation from the sign to the chairs. And I think if it's not a thing that would normally go under review, I'm not sure I would.
Well, ordinarily it would be coming with the umbrellas and the furniture.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, so actually.
Or would it be
wouldn't ordinarily?
Normally we don't. And so again, because of how vibrant this particular site is and a prominent corner, there was comments about the chairs. And so we just wanted to let you know that we've acknowledged that there's new furniture on the patio and on the outside area.
That doesn't fit within the current guidelines for exterior furniture. Is that correct?
The umbrellas are defined specifically in
Yeah.
the sign regulations that they're subject to regulation. Furniture is not.
Okay, thank you for clarification.
Yes.
I have one more question for that bracket we were talking about.
Yeah.
If we made a sign less than 7 square foot or 5 square foot to hang there, can we do it with staff recommendation if we're far enough away from another playground sign? Or what could we do about that if it comes up in the future?
You guys come back.
I think we'd have to debate on that one, just because I would imagine having measurements and understanding the corresponding sign. Main reason I asked about it is because I didn't realize there had been one hanging already for succulent under the or the pergola. And I thought maybe the reason you guys weren't using that was because you were sort of saying, well, there's already a lot going on in this space. So we'd rather have this Cantina sign right there at the entry. I didn't realize that it hadn't been used previously. I would be cautious about having too much signage.
Yeah, but we're not discouraging it. I
Right,
think if you
yeah.
want to make that application, do so, work with staff, and it'll come back. Of course, we want to make sure that it is in sync with, rather than just keep the black check without knowing what it looks like.
Well, and especially giving them, keep in mind, there's no needless repetition, redundancy, or proliferation of signage. It's one of the things that we are supposed to look at. And staff will instruct you on that.
Okay,
Understood?
okay. I understand that you're going to be involved in the signage on the senior center, but we're going to take up the Bella Vista revised conditions of approval.
We do senior center signs first before the meeting, not before Bella Vista, but when we get to that item,
Sure.
can we see the signs first so that, right, is that what?
That's what I'm
you're
considering.
Well, I
Because
see.
the rest of it is
Okay.
relevant to me, but the signs I can explain exactly what they are.
Okay. Okay, let's move on then to.
Excuse me, there was a first and a second, but there wasn't a vote.
I thought there was.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, then, all in favor say aye.
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 Thank
4-0. I'm sorry.
you.
Okay. We've done it twice then.
We really unanimously.
8-0.
Did you have the color?
Okay, so this is actually item 5B, which is the Bella Vista Development Lot 3 review and approve the proposed resolution. When we, yeah, understand. When we had this item initially before us in June, we asked that the applicant and the neighbor expressing concerns about that project try to resolve their issues. That agreement on plan modifications has been reached. I understand it is part of our materials back tonight. For the DRC, the performance responsibilities, it's appropriate that we review and approve the proposed agreement to ensure the public's interest is that we're here to which we serve are met. So with that, I will turn it over to Lori.
Good evening. This, as you noted, was reviewed by the DRC in May. And over the last 2 months, the applicant and the adjacent property owner have been discussing the elements of compromise for the Lot 3 house. The biggest features were tied to the windows of the side of the house that faces the adjacent property owner. Those windows have been adjusted and redesigned to be higher elevated windows. And the other negotiated item was in regards to the color. There is one chip that's on your dais, and it's a green color and versus the browns and grays that we had seen with the other buildings. And the other element is not to remove any of the oak trees on the site for Lot 3 that serve as a green screen between the property owners. And the last item is in regards to lighting or cameras or anything that would invade their privacy on the adjacent landowner. So those were the key elements of discussion and agreement in the letter that was provided by the adjacent landowner and have been agreed to by.
Yeah, those letters are in the materials and part of the record of this meeting.
Correct.
Okay, and those are signed by both the on behalf of the owner, pardon me, on behalf of the applicant as well as the homeowner, neighbor.
Correct.
Okay. And staff recommends acceptance of the modifications as presented.
Correct.
Okay. I don't know that there's anything more to add at this point. Is there?
I just want to note that I'm very pleased that the applicant was able to work with the concerned parties and reach an agreement. Happy to have you back and make the project move forward. I hope that we accept the agreement or
You would impose the conditions.
impose the conditions of the agreement.
Okay.
So you moved that.
I move that.
If we can have
And I-
public comment open.
Okay. Are there any
Start
public
with
comments?
the
I know the applicants here, but that's we're all. Are there any other comments here? Thank you.
Then I'll second the motion.
Been moved and seconded to accept the change conditions that are presented in the agreement between the applicant and the neighbor. All in favor, say aye.
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 Passes 4-0, one recused. Or
3-0,
3-0, one
3-0.
recused.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Bye, Brian.
Thank you. Okay, now we will take up an exciting proposal of the Solvang Senior Centers at 1745 Mission Drive to approve the design, materials, colors, exterior lighting, landscaping, and signage.
So I'll go ahead and make the staff presentation, and then you could bring forward the sign first, so that,
Okay.
and then we'll move through the other elements.
Very good. Thank you.
The DRC has seen this project about 8 months ago, and we have been working with the representatives of the senior center over the last couple of months to put a full development plan application package together. The procedure that, again, we refer to as the new procedure between the relationship between the DRC and the Planning Commission is that you will take the time tonight to review all of the elements of the project and make a recommendation to the Planning Commission for moving forward your ideas of design, colors, materials, and all of the different elements. And then the Planning Commission will be the final decision maker. If there's any future changes to your recommendations or what the Planning Commission finally adopts, then they would come back to the DRC. But at this point, this will be the last opportunity to review the project as proposed, and we'll move on to the Planning Commission. As noted, this project has been before you before. It pretty much reflects what you have seen. And the architecture is kind of a mix of California Ranch, Old Mission style, because they're capturing elements of the existing Veps Hall and county buildings, and but adding some additional elements to the architecture. There's a full list of the materials provided in your staff report. The project is consistent with the elements of the, so the industrial, or the institutional zone, which has elements for parking, height, setbacks, and the project does meet all of those requirements. And then we also have the provisions within the staff report in regards to the signs and the sign actually, and they all meet the requirements of the sign ordinance. And so you saw the number of exhibits that were provided for the architecture, landscaping, signage, lighting. You have the color chips up there for the key colors of the project. And so we believe there is a full package before you that you could move forward with a recommendation of approval. We did get one letter from WeWatch. They were concerned, they supported the lighting plan as far as I could tell. There was some concerns about some of the planting that was proposed, and I believe the landscape architect is here tonight. And so we can have that dialogue with the landscape architect. Based on that, we are recommending approval. We do have this scheduled for the Planning Commission meeting in September. Unless there's any major changes, and then we'll pull it and come back to you.
I understand. Is there a presentation or someone on behalf of the applicant here to speak?
You are, but if you wanted to do the signage or
Oh.
signage first, if that's.
Okay, yeah, that's right. We talked about that. So yeah, please. And I know you have a special set of materials that you submitted as part of the application regarding the sign. Signs.
Yeah, three signs. Or 2 signs, 1 single.
No flags.
I don't know.
Not right now.
No flags. Umbrellas? Maybe.
Go ahead.
I'm Brian, Campo. So, but I think, are you gonna read what we're doing right? And
Go ahead. I already did.
okay, so we have the simple sign, which will be nice, multiple elements of polished brass. Then
acrylic letters, so that was on the rock wall on the interior. The big wall sign, we're just a touch over 7 square feet, so I know it's a little bit bigger than ordinance, but I kept the letters at 8, and we're filling up that spot nicely. So if anything needs an exception, it might be for that, just for the little bit bigger than 7 square foot wall sign. Other than that, everything is in the packet.
And the reason for the slightly bigger is it just to fill the space more?
Just to fill the space more, we could bring it down a touch if we had to get to 7, but that's basically what the architect had set up in the initial plan. Just I sized it down a little bit to get 8 letters.
Yeah.
I do want to clarify that since it's not in the TRC, it's the size requirement is actually 12 square feet, so it is within the size requirement. So you're good. Yeah.
But the letter height is
The standards are 10 inches and all the letter height is below that. Yeah, so he's good.
So no exception.
No.
Okay.
I thought it was-
Thanks for that clarification. Okay, appreciate it. Okay.
Give us something to debate. I say we approve, well.
No, I think in the absence of any other comments someone wants to add regarding the site, we'll proceed and act on this now and then get the presentation regarding the rest of the architecture of the building and landscaping.
Is it okay to approve a motion within? Yeah. Right, I think you did. You can ask for comment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, in the absence of further comment regarding the sign, I'm open to accept the motion to approve it.
I propose we approve the sign as presented.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Sorry.
Aye.
You can do the next thing.
4-0 on the signage of the senior center. Thank you.
I'd like to compliment Brian very specifically because I don't think Brian's ever presented a proposal to us that hasn't fallen within the guidelines, if I remember right. And it's appreciated because I think you understand what the guidelines are. It's a good example for that are doing that.
12 years ago.
It makes it easy
Makes the
on us.
approval a lot easier on us and the applicant.
And faster.
Yeah.
Keep it up.
Thanks, Brian.
Okay, now we have representative to speak on behalf of the architecture.
I am Alan Hitt, as a co-chair. I've been involved with the production of the campaign to generate funds for the last 5 years. So along with Ted is my fellow co-chair, and we have Jim Dummett, who's our designer. We have our architect here, and we also have our landscape architect here who has included all of the plans that you have in front of you. So Jim is going to do most of your questions, and Kevin, 2 Kevins and a Jim. Those are your specific questions that can be addressed, and we have general ones from our side of the business. So we'll open
Thank
up
you so
any
much,
questions
and
you have.
congratulations on the good work that you've done to provide leadership here.
It is going to be a wonderful asset to the community of Solvang for many, many reasons, but it is a beautiful addition, and we have Santa Barbara County to thank for the space as well as the city of Solvang. So thank you in advance. And people have really been wonderful to work with Lori and
Great.
Ricky, and
Good to hear.
thank you.
Thank you.
So I will, I'm Jim Dummett, and
I think if you can provide just kind of maybe a general overview of how this has changed from the last time we saw it, and the key changes perhaps. And we accept questions. We've had an opportunity to see it. We've also received, I guess, we received a correspondence from We Watch and from Nancy Emerson and Susan Bott speaking about lighting fixtures and even some landscaping issues that I don't know if you've seen. I assume you have. And that letter will be incorporated into the record of this. Here. Go ahead.
Essentially, the building is the same, colors, materials are the same. And with regard to the We Watch, the only comment that I have is they were talking about how we might,
I'm not sure I understand their comment with regard to if the hotel were to happen next door. We don't know how to address that. I think their concern was maybe what we would see. Should we be screening ourselves from a hotel? That's a rather unusual comment. I can say that the whole first floor, basically, it's kitchen and storage room. And at the north end is the dining room, but it looks out onto 5-foot tall retaining wall, and the sloping ground goes up another 3 feet. Right. On the second floor, where there are windows for meeting rooms, you're looking into a tree canopy. It's pretty solid. Those major trees are preserved. They have always, we're tree huggers. We want those trees. And the only trees that were 3 trees, I believe, had to be omitted, but they were not oaks. They were ornamental. So we replanted them. Okay. But otherwise, it's pretty much everything that you had looked at. I think the real concern at the first meeting was to come back to you with signage. If I recall. But everything else, you're looking pretty much the same thing.
Any questions from members of the?
No, I think we've seen.
I would just comment on the landscaping, that any new landscaping, I agree, should be drop tolerant. Those large trees in the back, obviously, I wholeheartedly agree with what you said, which is let's keep them in. And they're certainly not as water intensive when they're that old, but newer things, any new planting, obviously, drop tolerant should be taken into consideration. That's, I think that's
Kevin Small will address that.
Yeah. I think the design, I think we expressed it before, looks awesome.
Yeah, I agree.
It definitely looks like the kind of place I'm gonna want to hang out.
How old do you have to be to go?
55.
Oh, man.
Hey, youngsters.
I got offered the 60 and over discount Valley Fresh the other day, so
I hope you do it.
I'm sure you need volunteers too. So. But it's a lovely building, I think. When you go over there, you can really envision what an improvement it'll be, and I think it looks great. I like the color scheme. It's sort of subdued, and I think being outside of TRC, we're not having that conversation about things needing to be super bright, and especially as there's a bright apartment complex right across the street on Maple. So I think this kind of tones it down a little bit. It's classy looking.
Gorgeous. Yeah.
It's lovely. I'm very pleased to see the tiled roof. I think we talked about that before, that ties it in aesthetically to the existing. That's all there. It'll be a facility that's well used, and it's taken such an effort to get here. And I want to applaud all people who have worked to bring it to this point. It's pretty exciting to be, this close to beginning. So appreciate all of the community efforts. I do have a couple landscaping questions, but those are for Kevin, I guess.
Well, go ahead.
Yeah. Okay.
So
Landscaping.
Could I not interrupt you, mate? I'd like to make one clarification, and I feel responsible for the minor issue. It was on the eaves, and I think this one at my advanced age just swiftly by me. It's called out as light brown. The eaves, as you see, consistent with all the renderings, are that black beam is not black. It's a very deep anodized aluminum is a color that you must associate it with. It's the color that is, it's the contrast color throughout the whole design. And the trellis is that color, the doors and window trim is that color. The idea is to be a contrast between the red tile roof and the beige sand colored walls. And I don't know how that looked by me, but I think you would see if you didn't have that contrast. So it's consistent with all the renderings and visuals that you've looked at, the design intent. I think it's just something I wanted to clarify at this time, so we don't have to try to correct it down the road, basically. And now's the time to make a note.
This is
That would be the only comment.
the black beam that we're looking at here
Yes.
is, I definitely noticed that detail, is that it is that level of detail that adds such a lovely elegance to the building here. So,
That's why I want to preserve it and not make it a light brown, as I call out.
I guess. that
And
because
the
all
light brown is in the
renderings-
staff report on the
Oh,
second page
well, I
where,
did wonder about
Yes.
that. Okay, so I had a
Yeah.
question about that.
So it's,
Thank you.
it's also listed on the materials page that they provided, so
Okay.
that's where it came
So
from.
this is, we're all referencing the black beam. So I just thought maybe it was, yeah.
No,
I circled-
nothing new, just more consistency. Okay.
Looks good.
Yes.
Good, thank you. Thanks for that clarification and putting it on the record. And you had some comments about that materials or
Yes,
landscape.
and I'm just continuing to look at this mix of materials and,
Thank you.
it's a very lovely mix of materials there. Yeah, I did have some questions. I do see lots of lawn on here, and we all love the green aesthetic. Is that something that's going to be practical? Is it, and this is probably called out in here in some tiny print on this, so I apologize.
There's no lawn on this project.
Okay, so all the green I'm looking at here is,
I'm not sure what you're looking at.
We're just looking at renderings.
Oh, that just represents landscape. It doesn't represent lawn at all. It's just green.
okay,
He's really illustrating the building, not the landscape.
okay. That's why I wanted to get some clarification, because that's why I was saying, unless I'm missing something.
Lawn is illegal in California in non-recreational areas.
Well, and then I'm looking at your other, planting plan, that's
Yeah.
why the question came up. Then as far as Nancy and we watch and the comment about the side property line, I do share some of their concerns there simply because I think their thought was that it would be best to factor in some more organic elements if you want to have a screen on that site that will be against a new larger, development there, most likely in the not too distant future. After the completion of this, and that perhaps there would be a place to add some more greenscape back there to soften it. Understanding that that isn't necessary in the parts that don't, clearly some of that looks like it's storage or equipment or that kind of thing, that perhaps on the, I'm very directionally challenged, what is that corner got?
east.
Is that the
That would be the northeast area.
Okay, that one.
Talking about.
Yes, that perhaps you'd like to consider some more vegetation there where there will be a visual corridor out the windows towards the new property. Other than that, it seems as though you have a very comprehensive, well thought out plan and compliments to all of you working on it. And I am not going to make any assumptions other than you've got drought tolerant plantings based upon your comments, and it'll look lovely when it's done.
Yeah, we have to comply with the state's water conservation ordinance, and without getting into the math, we're at almost half or a little over half of what the state allows us to use. So we're very drought tolerant.
Good, and you'll be happy with that if you're paying salt and water.
I have a lot of people back there that will complain to me. Did you want me to address We Watch's comments at all, or?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it'd be good to do that, put it on the record.
Just so you know who I am, I'm Kevin Small. I own Planner Design Group in Santa Maria. I have been doing projects in Solvang since the outlet mall got built. So I am familiar with the area and what's there here. So the two trees that were of concern were the sycamore which we planned it to be consistent with the streetscape
Mhm.
that already existed. And it is a drought tolerant tree. The Chinese elm, we also used because it meets our water requirements and it has a very broad canopy to help shade that parking lot and create a cooling effect there. So, you know, it meets the water requirements, it fits with the climate here, and I don't think it'll be too big for the parking lot. The comment was it may be, well, it actually, that was the intent, to be big for the
Yeah.
parking lot.
Yeah.
So,
I see why Nancy mentioned it, but
Yeah, I agree.
I think looking at the big picture, as you mentioned, you're not seeing any requirements or anything like that.
Yeah.
Certainly the sycamores around here are a real strong part of Salt Lake's image, you know, and.
well, I have a planning department that would say, why are you introducing something new to that street? You know,
Yeah.
so
Yeah,
that's why we picked it,
sure.
just to be consistent there.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So.
Very good,
Thank you.
very good. Any other comments here?
Mm-mm.
What action, are you said we approved the.
So, again, the package that's been brought before you
Yeah.
is site plan, elevations, colors and materials, landscaping, lighting, and signage. That's the full package. And if you are, accepting that package, I would suggest a recommendation to approve the package as presented and make that recommendation to the planning
To the
commission.
planning commission, exactly. Okay, so that's approving the design materials, the colors, exterior lighting is included, that's landscaping and signage. Signage is then approved. Yeah.
And the one clarification that was brought up by Mr. Demmett, which is the black bean color for the eaves,
Yes.
as noted in the staff report, would be clarified, and we'll relay that on to
That's
the planning.
incorporated in the recommendation.
Correct.
Okay,
Well, I'd like to make a motion that we accept the proposed design for this project with the modification of, or correction of the color black bean for the steel trellis door and window clad
And the eaves.
and the eaves. And that we accept the landscape plan, the lighting plan with the emphasis on the dark sky compliance.
Sign.
design,
Oh,
materials, colors.
Design, materials, and colors as presented.
And this is to approve and recommend to the planning commission.
Correct.
Okay,
Second.
second. Any other comments? You want to take some more time? All in favor, say aye. Aye. 4-0. Congratulations.
You guys must be really scared of us.
Yeah.
We want to come to the rice again.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Good work.
Oh, I was gonna say.
Thank you.
you.
Have a good night.
Okay, next item on the agenda is committee member comments. Any committee member comments?
I have a comment. We already discussed it, but I think just for the record, I think I speak for all of us when I say we really love to intercept some of those modifications before they come here to us, mostly just to help the applicant out. I think that's, I mean, not everybody wants to be here all night long, but I think for us, we're willing to do that. I think it's more about just less frustration for the applicant and that they're clear that they can request a modification, but it might just be, a waste of their time. So that's my only request.
Fair enough.
I second that.
And
Should we make a motion?
well, and to reiterate that if they're coming with something that's outside the parameters, then there needs to be a strong case made as to why they are the exception that we should approve. and not expect that, that would be happening, because there were so many this evening that were requesting more.
But with that said, to the planning department, thanks for all your hard work.
Here, I agree.
Because you're tasked with a lot more than we are in this case, and I don't think it's an easy job to do, so.
And often it's done with, we gotta have this, and I understand with the applicant, it's like, we wanna be at this meeting, we can't wait till next meeting, so I also understand that there's often an urgency put upon it.
Especially because of the turnaround timeline
Yeah,
for the applicants. I think it's probably hard for them to understand they have to wait so many weeks, their deadline is.
Well, and I think it's a complicated business, and I think that we've been able to provide more detailed review because, in part, because he really helped us by aligning the application and the various component parts of the application with the standards without having to guess what they are, stop and go look them up, and that's been very, very helpful and expedited the process, and I think helped us, frame the issues, with among ourselves and also with the applicant. So that's been helpful, and we all appreciate all that very much.
and I think it's really important too, because we know that there's lots of people who are putting up signs that never come before us. So we also want to make this process the least onerous that we can for the applicants. And, because again, these are the people who are following the rules and, to the best of their extent and our extent. So I gotta give them all credit for at least number one, they are coming to the city and consequently to the DRC, because there's lots of signs in towns. And on that note, as a comment, I think that the applicant that had, what was the one at the Copenhagen Square, the new business thing?
Pride and Joy.
Pride and
Yeah.
Joy. I think the Pride and Joy applicant who did not want to come to the mic, but did make a relevant comment, which was that, they're putting up a new sign and it's next to a sign that's just to the left as you look at their building. That is very sad, looking sign. And I would like to ask, if there can be some, if Eddie can look into that. Because it's really hard I can understand why she would be feeling disenfranchised when she's here, when her standards are so completely different from that of the person just a few feet away from her.
They'll have, they'll work with all resources.
Yeah, and on that note, I'd like to also ask about the sign on the window that I've had multiple people asking about I think it's a home mortgage sign that's just a plaque that's on the side of the LSL windmill that remains there. I don't know if it's come down and gone back up, but I know it's been addressed before.
Do we know if the sign that she referenced had been approved?
We'll have to look in Laserfiche for that
I mean,
information.
that's if it's been approved, it seems it's a different category than if it was a pirate.
But there's also maintenance issues.
Yeah.
Because,
That's true too. Fair enough. No,
yeah,
that's
because
true,
even
too.
if it was approved, it shouldn't be so dilapidated.
I agree.
And those types of signs can be approved for temporary time period only, so this would exceed the time frame, so.
I do have a staff question. It's a question we often ask about signs, if it's I'm not sure if I'm using the correct terminology, the raised lettering. Is there any way you could insert that in somewhere in your comments?
Yes.
That would be helpful, because that's it's such a different and elevated aesthetic as opposed to just a flat sign.
Okay.
Thank you.
And I'll just further comment on the old world style. I think, and maybe this comes down to, the conversation about flags and the First Amendment and all that. It's a slippery slope as a business owner. You're trying to brand your business and your business. I mean, mine happened. I got lucky. I was able to use a Danish, image in my logo. Yeah, but I did that intentionally. But I could see how, like, her business, for instance, really doesn't relate necessarily. And I think it's walking a fine line to say, well, it needs to be this style. To me, the raised sign helps that, the wood sign. you know, and I'm assuming throughout the general plan update and all that, that those are probably things. And honestly, now that we're talking about the flag thing, I suspect that will also come under, because that really does come down to content, right? So that may be a thing that we stop talking about at some point, you know, or it just remains a recommendation, I guess.
So when it's a matter of speech,
Yeah.
that's really what it comes down to. We had the case, some of you don't know, Zena and I, it was 2 or 3 weeks ago. I guess actually 2 different.
3 or 4 weeks
On the music in the park on Wednesday.
Yes.
You know, there was a guy that said 2 or 3 weeks in a row. And it was, you know, political campaign kind of stuff and so forth. And the chamber thought that they had rented the park for the
privately,
you know, because there's a cost associated with the for it. So, but anyway, after discussion with council and so forth, they decided that free speech issue, you can do that.
However, I think the way that can be addressed and still adhere to the law and allow this free speech is the volume or the number of flags, because they would have to do not just one, but many flags as well.
Yeah.
Okay. Right, but just to clarify, I guess as a staff comment going
Yeah,
next,
please,
in that situation in the park, there's actually, unless there's some specific regulations in existence as to safety, as long as the park is open, free speech is allowed.
That's right.
It would be
Yeah,
different.
that's right.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I assume like, for instance, when they do the wine, there was an event I participated in one time where the park was fenced off and they were selling tickets. That's a different situation where whoever that entity is would be able to say, I just saw me.
That kind of comes with the applicant.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean,
Especially,
I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. But anyway, moot point, I think.
but it is informational, educational.
Yeah, well, I think it helps us in the process, and I look forward to having that conversation again. Because it is something that needs to be addressed, both from an ordinance perspective and as a human and a business owner in town. I think it's a good conversation to have.
Yeah, and it's a safety perspective
Yeah,
too. I think a lot of it I look at as a safety
Yep.
issue.
Are there any staff comments?
So just projecting what staff is working on. We do have our planning commission meeting on September 8th. We will be bringing forward to the planning commission, the senior center. And we will also be doing a briefing with the planning commission on at St. George's project. You saw that a month or 2 ago, and we're going to just give an update to the planning commission because the project has evolved. And we want to make sure that everybody that's involved with this project has an opportunity to see the changes.
That's the lumberyard.
Correct.
And what's the date of that meeting? That's the next one?
September 8th.
Okay.
The 6th.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's September.
Correct.
Yeah, and if they have to change they may have to change their planting landscape to accommodate the already approved senior center, rather than the other way around.
Some collaboration should happen there.
I'm sure
Yes.
that'll happen.
Yes.
Any other comment?
So your next meeting in September, can you go through the items that we have?
We have a submittal from the Viking Motel. There's a new owner and they're going to paint the exterior and change the signage and I think change the exterior lighting plan. I'll be taking a look at that tomorrow and I'll talk to them about signage and manage expectations too.
Yeah,
And then this is a potential, but we need to follow up probably with Cena, but the Winston is interested in doing solar panels, and according to the code, it has to come to you. But we're not sure about state law, their expediting process. So we need to look into that. And then potentially the flags. But those are the 3 things that are potential.
And that's on September 15th, which is
Yes.
the soonest it can be in, since the third Thursday's on the 15th.
Yes. And it's right before the beach days.
Yeah, right. So Danish State.
Yeah.
I haven't received applications yet, but since now I almost have a year under me and I'm a little bit quicker with things, we might be getting sign applications from Juice Ranch, which will be at the corner 1607 Mission, or it will be at 1607 Mission, which is the corner of Atterdag and Mission. And then Mortensen's Bakery, they're going to do a new ground sign.
So not as heavy an agenda.
Yeah.
We don't believe you.
We'll see.
We'll try our best.
Still 4 weeks away.
I'll just throw in one more item and make the agenda potentially a little bit heavier, but the GPAC will be
Oh, yeah.
reviewing the design, community design element on September 1st. So it is likely that we might also be seeing that as part of your September agenda.
On that note, is that portion soon ready for public distribution, the community design elements for GPAC?
For GPAC, I would estimate another week and a half before you see.
So it's gonna be a pretty tight time. Okay. We've had a very, shall we say, robust schedule of meetings.
I will see you on Thursday.
Yeah, a lot. 4 times in the last 9 days, so for meetings, so.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
We're very well represented though on the.
Well, and Jennifer's wonderful and her role on the GPAC as she is here.
That's not surprising.
Yeah, she's, and it's been really helpful, I think, both here and on GPAC. You know, I have spent most of my time here in Sawbank, but having somebody who comes from a larger, urban environment has a different lens that they look at things. And I think that's really helpful, that kind of different perspectives. And I see that here as well. So compliments to everybody.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's all for us.
Okay.
Thank you.
With that, we will adjourn the meeting. Thank you all for doing this.
So do we think they're still passing out drinks and?
I did have a